Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, welcome to the channel. This is the series I have started to basically cover popular villains in horror and what video games they're into. This week I'm going to go into one of the most legendary villains in the horror series of recent times, Jason Vorhees. I know what you're saying, I literally just did one slasher, why would I do another one soon after? Well, one, I wasn't really sure when I started, I just picked. Secondly, it turns out that they kind of make an interesting comparison, and, well, Jason strikes me as Michael Myers gone way off the rails, and in some of the most interesting ways possible. So let's go ahead and get started in this and just watch Michael. Yeah, I'm already doing it. Let's just watch it go off the rails, shall we? Jason, much like Michael Myers, is a silent antagonist and headliner for the Friday the 13th movies. However, unlike Michael Myers, his motivations are more well-known and psychological. Jason was born on June 13th of 1946 to Elias Voorhees and Pamela Voorhees, who was born with severe facial deformities, hydrocephalus to be exact, and mental disabilities likely rising from the self-same condition. Pamela raised her son on her own and kept him mostly isolated, educating him at home. Due to his mental deficiencies, Jason had trouble learning, but he did learn not to question his mother, realizing his life would be very difficult if not nearly impossible without her. So, he became extremely loyal and obedient to his mother. In 1957, Pamela was hired by Mr. and Mrs. Christie as a cook for their summer camp. Jason would really have issues connecting here. He didn't really relate to many of the campers, partially due to his medical issues and partially due to his isolation with his mother, leaving him not really well socially adjusted to deal with other children. The children took this as him just being slow and began tormenting him, not uncommon for children of any day and age. Jason fled, but actually got cornered near the dock at the lake, where they actually threw him in. He wasn't a very good swimmer and never really learned to swim, so he was presumed drowned on the spot. The Christies would order the camp closed, but no one would actually ever find Jason's body, and it was declared an accident with no charges filed, and then the camp would be opened up again in 1958. Mad with grief, Pamela murdered both Barry Jackson and Claudette Hayes, the counselors she felt were the most responsible, but they never actually suspected or convicted her. She began doing everything she could to try to keep the camp from opening again, but despite all her attempts, Stephen Christie, the son of the original owners, reopened the camp in 1978. Pamela flew into a blind rage, again attacking people and going on a murder spree before finally being killed by Alice Hardy, wielding a machete. That's enough foreshadowing, I don't know what is. Unknown to everybody, Jason was not dead. He had actually seen his mother's death and stole away with her sweater, pants, severed head, and the machete used to kill her, and made a shrine to her in his cabin. He then went on his own rampage to avenge her, starting when he found some people trespassing in his cabin. His rampage would only be stopped when Tommy Jarvis, one of the recurring heroes of the series, attacked him brutally with a machete. Jason was finally dead, or so everyone thought. However, Tommy would be largely responsible for his revival after having his own mental break and almost becoming a Jason copycat. In a desperate attempt to cure his instability, he decides with the help of a friend to dig up Jason and cremate him. However, upon seeing him, he goes into another fit of rage and begins stabbing him with a fence post. The fence post started acting as a lightning rod and actually wakes up Jason with a bolt of lightning, making Jason far more dangerous and far stronger than he ever was when he was alive. Unlike Michael Myers, Jason has a much more consistent progression through the movies, and is slightly more relatable in the beginning due to us knowing more of his childhood history and tragic circumstances. Jason himself rarely, if ever, speaks, and when he does, it's more in grunts of exertion or pain. What's known is that he's loyal and protective of his mother and a survivor, having managed to successfully survive on his own in the woods with minimal education and no help from others from a year range of 1957 through 1978. Over 20 years. In all that time, nobody saw him or found where he was, which would make him an expert in hunting, trapping, stalking prey, and stealth. When he does make himself known, we find out he's well above average human strength. He's cunning and capable of stalking and taking down people, setting traps, restraining victims to avoid detection, which would easily classify him as an expert at guerrilla tactics and woodsmanship with no official training. He also has a high tolerance for pain, along with a strong will to survive, as is evidence with him still struggling to stand in a fight, even after being struck in the head with a machete. It's safe to say that Jason is about as tough as any human can be. Once he was resurrected from the lightning strike, Jason became a whole new beast. His strength was increased to titanic proportions. He's now effectively immortal. He can regenerate from major wounds that would kill most people. He can resurrect when he's damaged beyond his ability to regenerate. He can effectively teleport, use almost any and all weapons including improvised ones, adapt to almost any environment, and track down his prey unerringly, and has a titanic level of strength. He is even known to possess others in an active attempt to resurrect himself. His abilities even go so far as to incorporate cybernetics. Yeah, you heard me right. Cybernetics. Speaking of cybernetics, this is where they sort of skipped jumping the shark and decided to skip the proverbial Sharknado. After being finally captured and contained for years, it was decided since they actually couldn't find a way to kill Jason or keep guard on him all the time, they would cryogenically freeze him and leave him there. When he was reawakened 400 years into the future, yeah, we're going Jason X here. He's taken down again, only this time he's rebuilt by nanites. Yeah, this gets way out there, guys. This bumps his power levels to truly ridiculous proportions, making him almost impervious to all damage and capable of fighting even in space. It quite literally took re-entry into a planet to stop him, where it's suspected he'll be resurrected / rebuilt again. Yeah, it's Jason, guys. This went totally off the rails ages ago. Jason can use any weapon, but prefers a machete. I don't know if this is out of reverence for his mother or irony. He's not talking, so no one really knows. He's capable of using almost any means of dispatching his victims. And he also has very few weaknesses, the primary one being his mother, who's been used against him to paralyze him long enough to deal enough damage to drop him on multiple occasions. Water is also a known weakness, as is shown multiple times in the movies, and in Freddy vs. Jason, where Freddy finds it and uses it as a phobia to basically paralyze and weaken Jason so he can do damage to him. Any way you look at it, Jason is far beyond a normal villain. He is at this point a supernatural force of nature with a skill set that would make him right for any number of horror-themed games. So let's take a look at a few of the ones that he's been in since he was introduced. First up, and probably not what most of you are expecting, Friday the 13th. The computer game. Yeah, I didn't even remember this one myself. I completely forgot about it. This was developed by a company called Domark and released on the Commodore 64, Amstrad CPC, and the ZX Spectrum. The idea behind this one is actually kinda cool. You have two tasks. Essentially, find a safe sanctuary, which is done by picking up a sanctuary cross and placing it in a location to make it a sanctuary. This makes it so Jason can't go there. You also have to convince your friends to gather there. If they get bored or Jason enters, they'll leave. Which sounds simple, but not so much. You see, Jason is a normal player moving around the game until he attacks, so it's possible for you to invite Jason into the sanctuary in theory. You can play as various different characters, all having different levels of strength, panic, and sanity. Jason will always attack the player with the highest panic rating. To defend yourself, you have 10 various weapons scattered around that you can pick up and use. Apparently, the quality on this one varied quite a lot, with the Amstrad having the best graphics and sound, the ZX Spectrum having the worst graphics and no sound at all. The next one is likely the one that most people who come to my channel will recognize the most, Friday the 13th for the NES. This game has a reputation not only for being hard, but being difficult to navigate and very confusing on top of that. At the beginning of the game, the player will choose a counselor to play. As you explore the grounds of the camp, a beeping sound will indicate that Jason is closing in on one of the children. Most people think you can only play as one counselor during the game, which isn't true. You can go into any cabin, which effectively pauses the game without really pausing it, hit start, and select another counselor, which can be helpful if the cabin that Jason's homing in on is very far away from the current counselor you're controlling. If all the children die, the game ends. If all the counselors die, the game ends. In order to win the game, you have to fight and beat Jason 3 times over 3 days, with him getting more difficult each encounter. The game gives you clues on how to find more powerful items in the game, and even an option to kill Jason's mother by finding her in the woods. None of these are necessary to beat the game, but the stronger weapons and items obviously better your odds at winning the game itself. Okay, I'm guessing none of you really knew about this next one in Jason's history, and I'll be honest, it's a bit of an oddity, and I had no idea this thing existed either. Jason, The Road to Hell. Apparently, the sum up of this one is Jason got tired of killing regular humans because he's too powerful now, and they just are boring to kill now. So he gets the idea to fight his way into hell and do battle there. That is quite literally a quick synopsis of the game. This is an officially licensed game by New Line Cinema, by the way, and made by HeroCraft, where you play as Jason in a side-scrolling beat-em-up. This looks like it was a pretty low-budget title, quite frankly, and the fact that the whole thing was made in Java attests to just that. For what it is, it looks like a fun enough phone game to have. I don't really know what platforms it was actually released on, since it just says digital. Apparently it was popular enough to get at least one more release after the license dropped, but was renamed Thursday the 12th, with the main character named Slayson, with nothing else changed. I know what you're saying, is he in Dead by Daylight? Huh? You put everybody in Dead by Daylight. Well, they did kind of put everybody in Dead by Daylight, except for Jason. He has his own game, Friday the 13th, the game. This game plays a lot like Dead by Daylight, only it's simply focused around variations of Jason himself with skills and traits that he had in those appearances. And some are just fun skins to use while playing Jason. They even included a retro-inspired one with a purple coloring from the NES. How cool is that? The gameplay is built and balanced around up to 8 camp counselors, trying to either escape or kill Jason. During the game, a counselor can run into a radio in a random cabin, and if they interact with this, the player that dies or has died can come back as Tommy Jarvis. If nobody's died, the next player up that does die will come back as Tommy. He's actually one of the main criteria, along with having one of the female counselors wearing Pamela's sweater, in order to actually kill Jason and win the game. The female counselor will wear this to stun him, while Tommy deals the decisive blow. Outside of this, you have 2 other ways to win. Repair either the car or the boat and escape that way, or run out the timer and win via repair objectives. This game was fairly popular and well reviewed. However, due to licensing issues, the main servers were officially shut down in 2020. But the game is still playable online through peer-to-peer matchmaking, so if you want to pick it up, you can still find a way to play it. I found one last game, and I think it's one that most of you guys probably didn't find. That would be my guess, and that's Friday the 13th Killer Puzzle. This is, at its core, a mobile puzzle game that has Jason stalk and slay innocent campers across 100 puzzle levels. There are multiple costumes you can pick up, like in most mobile games, but these seem mostly for cosmetic purposes. Frankly, this game I recommend you pick up off Steam or some other platform. It's free and has no ads, unlike its mobile counterpart, and frankly, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. You swipe or press a direction, and Jason will zip that direction at Mach 1 speed till he hits an object. The point is to navigate him around the stage without dying and kill all the campers, making for a rather cute, interesting slide puzzle game complete with really cute death animations, which, yes, you can turn off, but I wouldn't really recommend it because, personally, if you turn them off, it just kind of ruins the game. It's just way too cute to see the animations, and it makes the game all that much more adorable and endearing, in my opinion. Outside his own games, many other games have references to Jason or just straight up include Jason. He's included in Terrordrome Rise of the Boogeyman, which is a popular horror fighting game that's included him as part of their roster. He's also been in Mortal Kombat X as a playable guest character. He even appears in Kid Dracula, both the regular and Game Boy versions of the game. Even Harmony of Dissonance has a reference to him as a helmet known as the Face Guard. This is by no means meant to be a comprehensive list of the games that he's been referenced in or included in outside his own, but it does go to show how popular and loved this character is that he's included and referenced in so much of the gaming medium. However, what do you guys think of Jason? Are you happy enough with his representation in the gaming sphere? Would you like to see more of him? What kind of games would you like to see him in next? Let me know in the comments. As always, thank you so much for spending part of your day with me. If you could do me one last favor, hit the like button. It really helps me out. Also, if you haven't, consider subscribing. However, for now, thank you once again for coming to my channel, and until next time, happy gaming.